guys, this is Kelly. We're taking a little holiday break this week, but we still wanted to bring you some content. So, today we're posting our recap of the Rocky Horror Glee episode. This was originally streamed as part of Pod VCon on December 6th, 2020. Please keep in mind this was a live stream, so the audio quality is not quite what you're used to from us, and we're also posting it more or less in its entirety, but we had a lot of fun and we think you'll enjoy it anyway. If you prefer to watch the video of the stream, you can find that on our YouTube and Facebook pages. This Friday, December 25th, we'll be posting our Christmas special, and you do not want to miss that. It's going to be amazing. A lot of us have put a lot of hard work into it, and I think you will have fun. Monday, December 28th, we'll post the live stream of our Richard O'Brien Q&A, and then we will see you in the new year with a new minute. Thank you so much for listening, and please enjoy the show.
So, I think we should start this the same way we start all of these. And that is with saying Rocky Horror Minute is rated R. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is also rated R. We're going to spend this time discussing the movie in gory detail. And along the road, we will talk about some of our adult content and use some of our favorite swear words. Like fuck, shit, Belgium. So consider yourselves warned. So welcome to Rocky Horror Minute. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming all the way out to Facebook on a dark and stormy night. This is about as close as you're going to get to a midnight Rocky Horror showing right now. So before we go any further, I want to go over the rules. Okay, just kidding. This isn't actually Rocky, so just got a little bit ahead of myself. Okay, Kelly, what do we have today?
Today we're discussing the Rocky Horror Glee episode, which neither of us were Glee fans before we started watching this.
No.
Yeah, so you still have not seen any Glee besides this episode.
And I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to watch anymore.
No. I actually watched the episode leading up to this so that I would have some context. So I'm going to sort of be Leandra's guide through the world of Glee, which is a dubious honor. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to any Glee fans in the audience, I did not care for the show. I did like it a lot at the beginning, like the very beginning. There were a lot of really fun, weird, campy jokes. There was like a really dark, obsessive humor to it at the beginning that was sort of lost as it wore on. Also, the plot of the show got really like stupid to the point that like he didn't save it, and then also, just there are problems which we'll get into later in the episode. It's not. Even, I know it's like 10 years old now for that. There's no excuse for some of the things they say and do in this show.
Yeah, I have some questions.
Yeah. So, that's sort of the situation here, but I'm going to go through and recap it scene by scene, and Leandra's going to probably ask me questions along the way for context. And we'll just discuss our opinions on this. I'm not going to pull any punches with it. And there are, like, even at this point in the show, there are things I liked about it, for sure. Like, some very funny moments in this episode. Not a lot of them. There's a couple. That I don't know. But we'll get into that as we go. So, the first thing we see is Lips. It begins with science fiction feature, kind of. It's just the first verse. It's Lips, I think Santana's Lips, which Santana is Naya Rivera. May she rest in peace. She just passed away a few months ago in that super tragic accident, actually. I had never seen Glee, but I was following that story really, like, religiously and was really affected by it just because it was such a accident. So actually, watching Glee was sad for me. I was thinking about
Aw.
that the entire time. You know what I'm talking about, right, Leandra?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, she played one of Gentas in this episode for reasons unclear to me, apart from the fact that they had more background characters than they had Rocky Horror characters.
Well, they
But
said something in like the first scene where they were going through casting. They were like, okay, well, there aren't a lot of female roles, so we're going to have to double up on Columbia's and Magentas. I'm like,
yeah, that's the in-universe. I can only assume the real-world explanation is that they didn't have anything interesting for those characters to do. They also have one character in Juvie right now, one of the main characters. I assume he had something else going on. I know.
there's a character in Juvie?
There's a character who's been in Juvie for a few episodes at this point because he apparently tried to steal an ATM. He actually, that actor has passed away too, and the actor who played Finn, the quarterback, the tall guy.
Oh,
So
God.
I know.
What the
People
fuck's
think
wrong
the
with
Glee cast
Glee?
is cursed. Yeah. So, yeah, it's actually like tragic, but not as tragic as some of these songs, which we're gonna get into now. Science fiction double feature sounded okay. It was overtuned, like everything in this show, especially at this point, is auto-tuned straight to hell. It's bad. It cuts after the first verse, which is fine. Kind of defeats the purpose of the song, but I also understand they're trying to fit it into a 45-minute show, and it didn't really add anything. So I actually didn't have a problem with that. I'm assuming it's Santana's lips just because of the shape. I don't know. Anyway, then we immediately are looking at There's a Light on stage being performed with pretty high production values, I have to say.
Yeah, I
Better
was
than
I was definitely confused at that point because, as friends of Rocky Horror would know, the second song is not "There's a Light," it's "Damn It, Janet." So I was emotionally prepared for that to be the next song, and then it wasn't. And then I guess we're supposed to live in a fairy tale land where these are all totally normal things for high schoolers to do, for sets for them to have, and then John Stamos showed up, and I was already more confused than I thought I'd be.
I was very surprised not to see John Stamos because he had been on a previous episode as this Emma's boyfriend. But I was very surprised to hear him sing because he had not done that yet, and John Stamos is not known as a singer, so I was not expecting. Why are you giving me that look? Is he known as a singer?
Yes.
Oh, from what?
Yeah.
I
He
know
was
him
in.
only from Full House.
Yeah, he was also. He did shit with the Beach Boys.
He was in the Beach Boys?
I think that he just like toured with them. I don't know. It was a whole thing when it was a whole thing in Full House about it. But yeah, he sings.
All right. Well, that was not my frame of reference for John Stamos at all. And after he didn't sing at all in his first episode, I was thinking he's not a singing celebrity, so he's not going to have songs. And then here he just broke it out in this. I actually love John Stamos. The character's boring, but I love him anyway. So I had no problem with that. But we'll get to his song a little later. There's a Light could have been worse. Now, what's your stance? Oh, Adrian is saying that John Stamos apparently was a drummer. I don't know, but also a singer. I don't know. Now, how do you feel about Rachel's singing? That's Leah Michelle, the lead female in everything.
The Janet.
Yes, the Janet.
I
If
hated
there's a lead role,
everything about her.
Now,
I
she's a
hated her
Broadway
just.
star. I've actually known her for years because she was the original Vendla in Spring Awakening. And she sounded a lot better on that soundtrack. In Glee, she constantly sounds so whiny and irritating to me.
She was very nasal, and everything about this was very hip sing, which is kind of the very crusty voice.
Yeah. So my constant frustration with Glee is that um she is in every episode constantly they're like, you're the best singer I've ever seen. You're the most amazing singer in the entire world. You sound amazing. You're the lead. You get all the solos. Everybody else is a background character. And almost every other female singer in the Glee Club is better to me, especially Mercedes, who's played by Amber Riley, and the girl who played Frankenfurter.
Oh my god, she was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, her voice is a million times better to me than that. Now, I understand sometimes you need like a mezzo for certain parts, but she's the lead female for whatever reason. Her character is also just the most irritating, and I hate the way she lip syncs. I mentioned earlier to you that it reminds me of TikToks. Their big facial expressions and overdoing it with the lip syncs constantly. And she's not even always supposed to be lip syncing in the show. Like, it's not even always like a musical moment where they all broke into song. Like, it'll be like a scene where she's singing on stage because that's her whole life is being a singer. So, anyway.
Now, I'm going to be honest, I never intentionally paid attention to what Glee actors were doing, but I did hear that she was a bitch.
I've heard that too.
Yeah,
I've heard
like,
she's a bitch, and I did not find out why, but a friend of mine, close friend of mine, described her as, quote, a rude racist. I don't,
okay.
I don't know why.
I'm not shocked.
I don't know the context for that. Don't come for me, guys, if you're like an Amber, or not an Amber Riley, a Leah Michelle Stan. I don't know why she was called racist, but I do trust this person, so anyway. Her character at least is unbearable, and like they even talk about how unbearable she is like in every single episode, and yet people also like still are friends with her, so I don't know. Now, John Stamos shows up out of nowhere during There's a Light and says like, are you messing with my woman? Like, what are you doing? And then it freezes on Will Schuester, who I think looks like a cross between Neil Patrick Harris and Justin Timberlake.
I sent you, while we were watching this, I was like, who is this fake NPH?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, I've been saying the same thing the entire time I've been watching Glee. Now, they do this in Glee a lot, where it's like, freeze frame, I bet you're wondering how I got here. So, and now
I was really hopeful that was like a one-time thing.
Yeah, no, it's happened a lot. The first time I thought it was really cute, but like the third or fourth time I was like, Glee, Jesus Christ. So yeah. Then they flash back. Now you see Will and Emma, and I don't think I need to tell you that among the adults, they've been the big will they won't they of Glee since episode 1.
I find both of them as unattractive and unsexually exciting as I could possibly find two people.
Yeah, Emma is very irritating to me because she talks in her sexy little baby voice, and she like over enunciates with everything, and she always has her eyes as open as possible.
She's really excited.
In one episode, Jane Lynch described her as a bush baby because of her gigantic eyes, and I really enjoyed that. So anyway, they have a very frustrating discussion. So Emma's whole thing is that she's got like a very poor TV representation of OCD, and yeah, and so she's like a big germaphobe. That's why it hasn't worked out with her and this evil teacher yet so far. She's like really uptight about a lot of things, and apparently she has started going to Rocky Horror with John Stamos, her boyfriend, and it has been curing her. Now, Rocky Horror has been like therapy to me and a lot of people, but I don't think it is basically going to work as immersion therapy for any of these issues.
What is the grossest thing that ever happened around you at a Rocky Horror Picture Show showing?
I stepped in vomit when I was only wearing stockings one time.
That's the worst.
Even that. Yeah. So, yeah. I have touched boners of people that I did not want to touch.
Yeah, that's always surprisingly
like,
upsetting.
On both of our parts, they weren't like casually slipping a boner into like dick in a boxing me or anything. Like, it was just part of the experience. One of our Sarah, who's watching the stream, said she's had a condom thrown at her. I hope unused, but
it did not.
Yeah, so
can confirm.
Leandra, what is the grossest thing that's ever happened to you at a Rocky Horror Show?
Okay, well, I've been doing Rocky for long enough that I've done it in multiple places, and one of the just kind of standard things that used to happen at one of the places I did Rocky was there were always mice just scrambling across the stage, and it was always just very upsetting to me that I'd go like, oh no, it touched me, oh no, thank you. So there was that. And then I've heard some horror stories. The two things that kind of stick out in my mind are many years ago at our theater, there was a homeless person who would break in and defecate in a corner backstage, and we didn't do anything about that because we don't work at the theater, and we told the theater employees, and they're like, damn, that's crazy. And then they just put a like traffic cone in front of it, and we were like, what?
At least they didn't, like, put a cocktail umbrella in it or anything.
So we had Poo Corner for like a month, and it was very upsetting, and we just were like, don't put your stuff within like 15 feet of this. I'm very sorry. It's not mine. I'm sorry. So
it's not mine, honestly. No, but
so then we had a meeting with the manager, and we were like, hey, while we have you, Poo Corner, any way we get that fixed? And he was like, but what now? And that immediately got fixed. It was just one of those things that hopefully nobody ever deals with ever again. And it hasn't happened since.
I'm sure nobody in the world will ever have to deal with that ever again.
Well,
so it's curing her mental illness, and that's beautiful. I mean, I don't actually have OCD. Do you, Andrea?
Oh, no.
So that's proof that it works. So this is 100% accurate. Now, I actually missed this, and Leandra made me rewind. Emma says, of course she goes as Janet, because Janet's a ginger. And besides OCD, her only personality trait is having red hair, this character. So, Janet is blonde.
There's best, you could say strawberry blonde.
There's
at
best.
best.
No way anyone in the world could ever consider her to be a ginger. Except apparently the writers for Glee. That blew my mind. Like I said, I made Leandra rewind it.
I got a screenshot. I'll drop it in the chat.
Yeah. I mean, that frustrated me greatly.
Well, it certainly didn't arouse me.
Main characters who are gingers or have red hair at least. And yet, all right. It's fine. We're not unpacking it, but that was the first really big, like, what the fuck are you talking about moment in this episode, and there were a few. So Will immediately, because all he ever does is manipulative shit. Like, one of the first acts he does in all of Glee is plant weed in Finn's locker so that he can blackmail him into joining Glee Club. So he's never been a great, like, sympathetic protagonist for me, because all he ever does is manipulate people. And once again, he is evilly manipulating her. He's like, oh my god, Glee Club, I'm going to have Glee Club do Rocky Horror as the school musical this year.
What a crazy random happenstance.
Now, Glee Club does not do the school musical. It's certainly not decided like that. It certainly, at a public school, has to go through many layers of approval.
I mean, we've got surprisingly a couple of children's listening in. So first off, have you done your homework? And secondly, you both do theater. Can you let me know if this is just something where somebody goes,
No,
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
I know for a fact it's not, and also like the Glee Club is not the group that does the school musical.
He's a war criminal.
Yeah, we got a message in the chat that said the joke in the Glee fandom is that he's a war criminal, which is completely believable. He's like evil from day one, and yet not supposed to be. Anyway, so
Spaghetti's done Rent. Okay.
It's not so much that like no high school could ever do that ever, but you like. First of all, one person doesn't just decide the school musical and then that's that. Like, I know for a fact that in public schools it gets approved because it's getting funded. And then the other thing is that the Glee Club and the school musical are two different things. Like, there would be overlap, but it's not like the Glee Club performs the school musical single-handedly. Anyway, that's fine. We don't have time to get into all of the issues with this, but it was frustrating for me. So then we cut to the actual Glee Club. Brittany, who is my favorite character at this point.
Which one's Brittany?
She's the dumb cheerleader who is playing one of the Columbias.
Okay.
She gives one of the only funny jokes in the episode when she says she's going as a peanut allergy for Halloween.
Oh, yeah, that was cute.
Yeah, she's constantly saying fun things like that, which is why she's become my favorite character. So then Will makes the announcement the Glee Club is very doubtful that he can do this. Kurt actually brings up that a high school in Texas tried to do Rent and they couldn't, and there was a huge uproar. I'm sure that actually happened. But Will then evilly starts assigning roles in the most defensive way he can. He gives Artie, who is wheelchair bound, the role of Dr. Scott, and he's like, no, actually, Artie was like, are you going to make me play the guy in the wheelchair because I'm in a wheelchair? And he's like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. And then he homophobically assigns Frank to Kurt, the gay student. And Kurt's like, I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to. And then another student whose name I can never remember because he's barely ever in the show. I think it might be Ken. Anyway, he says he'll do it. And then a new character whose name I think is Sam says he wants to do Rocky because he's got a hot body and he's blonde. I'm not calling him hot. That's what he said. I actually had not seen his body until this episode. And then Kurt's going to be Riff. And then there's 2 Columbias, 2 Magentas, as we said. So then Finn, who is the tall quarterback, cast as Brad, and Rachel, who is Leah Michelle that we've already talked to, apparently very racist, they're dating, and they're on stage practicing alone. And Finn says he's insecure about his body. Now he is like a 7-foot tall quarterback who appears to be completely normal looking, and it's a confusing thing. There's never been any indication that he ever has had those feelings, but now he's saying that. And then Rachel's like, well, I don't look like Brittany or Santana, who are both cheerleaders, but you still think I'm hot, right? And it's like, but you do look like Brittany and Santana, like exactly like them.
Okay, so you have to understand, I don't know any of their names. When she said Brittany and Santana, I thought she meant Britney Spears and Carlos Santana. I'm like, I do not understand why those are the two that you're like, oh, if only.
No. Another weird thing, this is just as an aside, but there was like a big thing at the beginning of season 2 where like Santana had gotten a boob job over the summer, and she almost got kicked off the cheerleaders for it and everything. And I was like, she does not have big boobs now. It doesn't look like she got a boob job. Like, I thought they were doing it to cover up for the fact that the actress got one, but I don't think the actress got one. As far as I can tell, she looked exactly the same as she did in the first season, so it was a very weird plot point. But then why not just pad the bra? But then why do it at all? Anyway.
Why? Why?
Anyways,
If only I looked like Santana featuring Rob Thomas.
Yeah, Adrian, you can dream. So anyway, she said she
thank you,
like
Spaghetti.
Santana, who she does look exactly like. So it was dumb, but he's like, you're right, I do still think you're hot. Now it cuts to the local news show. They say the second funny joke of the episode for me, where the news story that they're finishing up is making it the zoo's first Unitarian chimp wedding in over 6 years, which I loved. I enjoyed it a lot. But then they cut to Jane Lynch, who is the cheerleading coach, giving.
That's what she is?
She is the cheerleading coach.
Okay.
And she's like, she's really obsessed with winning. She wins every championship, so she's a big rival of the Glee Club, always trying to destroy it. It doesn't make a ton of sense now, but so she also has a like a feature, a weekly bit on the local news show. What would you call that?
A bit.
Yeah,
a segment. A segment.
That's what we want. I was like, calm, but on TV. Anyway, she gives some fun weirdness as usual. What was your? I'm very used to these because they have them a lot on the show. What was your takeaway from that whole thing about Halloween that she gave?
I don't know. Like, I was left confused because she's like, don't make kids trick or treat, scare the shit out of them. And I'm like, I mean, bold. I'm not saying that that's the wrong answer, but I don't know why you feel strongly enough about it that you'd put this on your "this really grinds my gear" sort of thing.
That's what her whole thing is, and her character's constantly saying like stuff that is that bizarre, and it's honestly enjoyable for what it is. So anyway, she finishes up. She says that's how Sue sees it. That's her thing. And
is it because she's a C word?
She is, and she'd probably have no problem with that. Now, she's in her office at school carving a pumpkin in her office, which becomes a masterpiece. I loved that as well. That was another joke I enjoyed. But Barry Bostwick and Meatloaf show up.
They do.
Shocking the hell out of me. Even though they get a lot of guests, for some reason I didn't think those two guests were going to show up. So I was happy, actually, to see them. They basically say that they want her to do an expose about this school doing Rocky Horror, and that she'll get a local Emmy, which she becomes an obsession for her instantly because her whole thing is she's obsessed with winning and trophies. They do a fun bit during this where it's like, killer bee. Imagine like a story about a town overrun by killer bees, no terrorists, no Mexicans, which is offensive, Mexican terrorists, and it gets offensive. But that was pretty much all they did. Other than that, I felt they were wasted.
Yeah, my response to you with this was, I expected more from you, Barry. I didn't really expect much more from Meatloaf, just because he really was playing kind of a fun version of roles that I've seen him in. I really, really hoped that Barry Bostwick would bring something that he at least found joy in. And I was just checking it out. It looks like Barry Bostwick said that their roles were stunt casting, and he was hopeful that his character would return to the show in the future and become involved with Sue. So
that would have been funny.
I don't know if it happened, but that was his hope.
Yeah, and I never will know if it happened because I'm never watching another episode of Glee again.
No, this was torture.
So we cut to Glee Club again. The Cheerios, which is the name of the cheerleaders, make fun of Finn's body, which they're like, "Ooh, can't wait to see that hotness." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "You can't
Am
eat
I
sloppy."
attractive? Oh no.
Well, they go, "You can't eat sloppy joes every day and expect everything to be fine." And I'm like, you actually, if you're a high school boy who's like 8 feet tall and plays football, you definitely can. I don't think there's any high school boy, for the most part, who is carefully watching his diet.
Well, and that was kind of my thing with all of
Not
this.
that it should matter. Not that it should matter, but also, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, the
Like,
idea that the cheerleaders would be like, "There's that fat ass getting a sloppy Joe again."
there were so many times that they're like, hey, I just want you to know, people watching, you should really care about what you look like. And if you
Yeah.
don't, then you're the problem. And I'm like,
Yeah. So, they do Damn It Janet. I actually kind of enjoyed the choreography in this one. It was crazy, but it was fun. It sounded okay. Finn had the perfect right energy for Brad.
he did.
Rachel had the complete wrong energy for Janet.
What role should she have been cast in?
Columbia. For what she was doing, Columbia.
I mean, fair.
She was
Fair.
whiny and like annoying. Or plant, Triffid.
A Triffid?
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, a Triffid is a plant. It's just some sort of
It's a tall, mobile, carnivorous plant from outer
yeah.
space.
So now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
Yes. So that number happened, and then Sue comes to say that she wants to be involved with the show, and Will says fine. Those are the two teachers. So then the boys are very straightly working out together, pumping
They're
iron.
straight.
Yep,
They're
they're
straight.
all straight. And basically, Artie, the wheelchair-bound kid who is going to be playing Dr. Scott, and Sam, the blonde kid whose name I clearly have trouble remembering because he's boring and just got introduced, are just teaching Finn how to stop being such a disgusting slob with a disgusting body.
Yeah.
Is the implication of this scene. They give him a bunch of diet and exercise tips. It's offensive. Then we see Will and Emma doing so, and he asks Emma to do costume designing despite how she always dresses, which is very poorly. Like,
he doesn't know.
No, he doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
And she is a guidance counselor. There's no reason to ask her to do this, but she's like, "Of course, it's my dream." So that's
it's my dream to do this. I mean, not hang out with you, but hanging out with you is nice.
So that's what she does. And then the kid whose name I can't remember, who has said he was going to play Frank, hops in and says he can't play Frank because his parents refuse to let him play he uses an offensive slur for a transsexual person or a transgender person, and that's what happened. It was used completely in the most offensive possible context, in the most offensive possible way, and he just leaves. So now they have no Frank. That's the big conflict. So Becky, a student with Down syndrome who is used pretty offensively, and is like Sue's right hand, is dressed as Sue, and Sue hands her a megaphone and says, "Go scream at some fatties." So that was nice.
It was Mike who was going to play Frank.
Mike.
I don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just can't ever remember his name, because he barely ever speaks, ever.
He's forgettable.
Yeah. I mean, he is such a background character that when he was supposed to play Frank, I was like, oh, please. I know that that's not happening. So, yeah. So then Carl and Emma are talking about how they're super annoying Rocky Horror fans. And Sue tells Carl that 70% of all teeth in the school are wooden because he's a dentist. So for some reason that makes him want to
He's
be in
a
Rocky Horror.
dentist.
Yes, be
Okay.
a dentist. Yeah, well, that's why that was why teeth lured him in.
Okay, I thought that was very weird.
Yeah, it was, but it was still like not quite as weird as it seemed. So they abruptly cut to, so it's Hot Patootie. John Stamos kills it. I felt the rest of the club, but I enjoyed him as Eddie quite a bit. Thoughts?
So here's the kind of issue that I have with a lot of this. It's supposed to be a musical for like the kids in the high school. And instead, all of these adults keep going, I'm going to be in it. I'm going to take
Adult
this
who
role.
does not even work at the high school.
Wait, who?
Well,
oh, right.
He's a dentist. He's just Emma's boyfriend. That's the only connection he has to any of this.
That's like, why? No.
Although he did in like 2 episodes ago give free basically laughing gas to all the students so that they could have Britney Spears fantasies.
Okay.
But anyway,
I liked this. This was the second season, so it was renewed after the first season.
Yeah, and then there are 6 seasons total. So, but anyway, Stamos says he can't actually play Frank. He thinks that type of thing should be done in the privacy of your own home, making Glee once again a confusing message. But he does say he wears bustiers at home because, in his words, he's freaky like that. And it's like, okay.
And I want to say it was one of the cheerleaders was like, oh my God, that's really hot. And I'm like, put your hand down.
Yeah, well, all the students are constantly saying they want to fuck him, which is, I mean, he is John Stamos.
I have never wanted to bang John Stamos.
I've always wanted to bang John Stamos. And not just because he's a celebrity, because we have talked about on the show how I will sleep with any celebrity. Regardless of age, appearance, diseases, whatever. For the story. But also, John Stamos I would sleep with even if he wasn't famous. Now, Mercedes says she wants to play Frank.
Hey there.
Because and I thought she was going to be like, I've always connected with this character, but instead she's like, I've always wanted a lead role. That's my dream. And I was like, you know what? That's accurate for community theater or any theater. Like, so they give it to her.
She says, I've read the script and they say, don't dream it, be it. And I'm really hoping you'll give me a chance just this once to be a lead. And I'm like, fuck everybody. Oh my God. And she was the best part of it.
Oh, for sure.
If you disagree, you are wrong.
And I was like, but then it actually was great. So they abruptly cut to dress rehearsal. Finn says he's worried about showing nuttage, which I was like, Finn, that is a fair issue. I've seen many ball slips at Rocky.
Yes.
So, and
some intentional, some not.
Yeah. It's a real thing. So
pro tip for all of you people out there that might like stripping, if you're going to be wearing underwear that is not fully backed, don't do any deep bends.
Yeah. So I'm trying to go faster now because we're so behind. But basically, Mercedes does Sweet Tea. She kills it, in my opinion. The lyrics are kind of weird, but the only real thing is that she says, I'm just a sweet transvestite from sensational Transylvania. I don't know why they can say transvestite and not transsexual. That didn't make any sense to me, but that is what happened nonetheless. And she does say the rain isn't to blame, which is wrong. I don't care. It's the rain. Maybe the rain is really to blame, but that's fine. It's fine. I don't care.
You don't care? It's fine. It's fine.
Then Eddie busts through the wall and they're like, no, John Stamos, you're early. And I was like, yes. And then Will says, you're supposed to come in during dinner scene. And I said, no. What? That wouldn't make any sense. They're eating him at dinner scene. So how?
Oh my God, spoilers.
I know, I'm sorry.
And they took away the cannibalism by doing that.
So I don't know. That was another moment where I was like, why are you doing this if you clearly don't know much? You think Janet's a ginger, and then you think this. I don't know. Now, Will announces that he's going to play Rocky because he can't have a student doing that risque part. And I'm like, fair, I guess, but then does that mean Frank is going to be talking about fucking you when it's Mercedes, and Janet's going to be talking about fucking you when it's Brittany, but whatever. It's all a setup just so that he can say, Emma, I need you to help me rehearse Toucha. And then they do. The only good part of this is that Santana and Brittany as Magenta and Columbia are watching, and they are the perfect characters to play Magenta and Columbia because they are casually gay together and basically
Like so
just,
many people.
background characters who watch from afar and make catty comments all the time. So they basically are Magenta and Columbia. And like Santana's really mean, and like Brittany's dumb but enthusiastic about stuff. So it was really good casting for just that alone.
Wait, no. Yeah, it's you. You're the dumb one.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. So
I helped.
they do Toucha. It sounds like shit, in my opinion. Like the worst of all of them.
It was the lyrics, though.
Well, I mean, not just the lyrics, though. I'm saying like the audio, like the music and the auto-tuned singing was terrible to me.
You don't think Janet should have sexy little baby voice?
It was all bad. Like, it was so auto-tuned and like shitty sounding. So anyway, they changed lyrics quite a bit. They said I felt there's no use getting into heavy sweating. It only leads to trouble and bad fretting. And then we get later she also says, I need a friendly she says, I need a friendly man.
Not even a friendly hand.
So it's all about her needs, I guess. So it sucked. They basically destroy his classroom and basically she strips him down. It doesn't make any sense for what's happening. And then she runs out terrified. So then Finn and the blonde kid are discussing how fat the blonde kid Sam is, which is ridiculous. He has 0 body fat. And then Finn's like, well, I feel bad about my body too. And then the blonde kid says, the third what the fuck moment, he says, the Brad part's not about looking hot. It's about being confident in who you are and how you look, no matter how douchey you are. That interpretation of Brad is insane, right?
I mean, yes and no.
When is Brad confident in who he is and how he looks?
In a corset.
Well, at the very end.
Yeah.
Not throughout. Like, that's his transformation, but most of it is not that. I don't know. So they do Rocky Horror Roll Call. It's sort of fun, except for the show implied, because Finn's not there and Will is having to read his line of Janet. Or whatever. So the show implies that it's unheard of for someone to read a missing character's line at rehearsal, which is stupid and crazy and made me mad. They're like, we can't do this without Finn. You keep having to say one name when he's not here. It's stupid. So anyway, Finn is not there because he was suspended for walking down the hall in his costume, which was his tidy whities.
They were boxers.
Oh, okay. Well, he gets a 1-month suspension for this, which is crazy. And they say 9 children have already signed up for therapy, and I was like, that's so fucking irritating. Like,
and they brought in the grief counselor.
I know, like, oh, we needed therapy from seeing this student because his body's so disgusting. Like, fuck you, Glee. Like, actually, fuck you. But Will gets it downgraded to a warning. The principal Figgins reminds him that everything's on the line or else Glee Club's done for good. That happens in like every single fucking episode. It's irritating. Carl, the dentist, throws a tantrum. Becky comes to trick or treat. She's very offensively dumbed down. I'm really having to gloss over stuff now because we're over time. But she's really offensively dumbed down. She's talking like a child or a baby. When that is not her character, and that's also like just a really offensive portrayal of people with Down syndrome, so I did want to highlight that. But because she's just parroting things she's heard in the past, she goes, Rocky Horror is an abomination. And then Will's like, what did you say? And she's like, well, that's what's on the tape in Sue's office, and then shows it to him, and then he finds out she's doing the expose. So then the expose, he argues with Sue. Eventually he is like, you know what, you're right. I thought it was okay because the students have the internet, which what? And then he decides to pull the show, and Sue's like, no, my Emmy. Will tells Emma, I only did this to get close to you. He says, I promise never to abuse our feelings for each other again. What? But also, I bet he does not keep that promise. This is like the 15th time he's been like, I'm going to back off and respect that you've decided you don't want to date me. And then every episode he's just doing this kind of shit. So he apologizes to kids. They make more jokes about everybody's bodies. So that's nice. He then says, Rocky Horror wasn't for envelope pushers. It was for outcasts. And I was like, fuck you. I can be both.
I am certainly both of those. Yeah, perhaps at the same time.
Very much for envelope pushers as well as outcasts. But I was also like, fuck you, Glee. It's not a thing for a ragtag group of misfits. So yeah. He's like, we're doing the show, but just for us, not for other people. And then they have time warp. Quinn's magenta sucks, although her makeup looked okay. Santana's was okay. Brad is singing in it. Now, I don't usually have a problem with the fact that Glee rearranges songs so much, because they do, and like give parts to different people to like showcase different characters. But in this case, if you're doing it as part of a staged Rocky Horror show, it kind of alters the entire plot for Brad to be singing those lines in time warp.
They didn't care about the plot.
I know, but I'm just saying. It sounds like shit once again. There's double Columbia and double magenta, which is weird. Artie is Crim, and he's being fun, so I did enjoy that.
Yeah, I was fine with that.
As far as I can tell, this episode had absolutely no impact on the plot of the show. If it was removed, you would miss nothing, because the only thing that happened basically was that Will and Emma had their thing, and they ended up back where they started, so yeah.
So, as somebody who was doing Rocky when this came out, I was very much like, no, I'm not going to watch this. This is not a thing that I'm interested in watching. And I stand by that statement.
Yeah.
But when that came out, we had hordes of children just show up to watch us in Rocky, and most of them were very confused and kind of unhappy that this wasn't what they were expecting. And I don't know exactly what they were expecting, but it certainly wasn't the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I was happy for the boost in numbers, and I think that there are probably some people out there that went, oh, I saw this on Glee. Oh, this is better than what I saw on Glee.
I hope.
But, I mean, one would hope. But there are also plenty of people who were like, Mom, can you take me to see this? I saw it on Glee. It's really cool. And then every parent had to go all the way out to some midnight showing with their horny children and try and figure that out. And I'm surprised that I didn't get more people going, my word, I didn't realize that this was going to be vulgar. But, but on the flip side, as I found the picture just before we went on, it was last year that we had like 7 and 8-year-olds show up in full Transylvanian garb, and their parent or guardian, whoever, were just like, "Oh yeah, they know what's happening. This is fine. Everything's fine." And I'm like, "Is it? I don't think it's fine." They're like, "No, it's fine. Trust me on this." And they came up, they sang the alphabet song, because what else am I going to do? And then they sat down and had the time of their lives. And I was just like, that is great. I'm so happy for you. And yeah, they were absolutely adorable little bugs.
Right. So that's pretty much it. I found out that Planet Schmanet Janet was supposed to be in this episode and was recorded, but was cut for unknown reasons. Probably because it didn't make any sense. Carl and Emma were supposed to sing it.
Oh.
So.
I read that John Stamos was initially supposed to play Frankenfurter, but the network was like, that's not a thing. That's not a thing we're doing.
Thank you.
But there were just so many questions, so many casting choices that I was very concerned about. Nobody ever said, whoa, 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 why is this dude playing Rocky? And Janet is still Lea Michele.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, that's, and I alluded to that earlier. It's like the idea of an adult playing Rocky, especially while teenagers are talking about fucking him, is weird. But we're over time, so I guess that's it for us. Leandra, what were your overall impressions? You loved it?
What is the word I'm looking for? As disturbing as the concept of you fucking Gary Busey.
Well, I would have to say it's worse than that, because I would gladly fuck Gary Busey at any opportunity. Whereas I hope to never watch another episode of Glee. I'm angry that I had to watch as many as I did.
Nobody forced you.
I did it as my dedication for this podcast, so you're welcome.
If you liked this, make sure that you look us up online. We're at rockyhorrorminute.com. You can also follow us on Facebook at Rocky Horror Minute, or Instagram at Rocky Horror Minute, or Twitter at Rocky Horror Min.
Yeah.
And YouTube, just search us up.
Yeah, and if you have comments or questions about the Glee episode or anything in Rocky or the Rocky universe, or you want to send us a dick pic, whatever, just email. Yes, do that. You can email us at rockyhorrorminute@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram or Facebook, or I don't care. Do whatever you want to get in touch with us.
And of course, at the end of this month, we're going to have a fantastic Christmas special. Lots of singing, no dancing because this is a fully audio format, but you can definitely bop in your own home or your own vehicle, wherever you listen to your podcasts. But we are far over, so I guess what we can do is end this the way that we end all of our shows, with now. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, so get the fuck out.